For 3 hours, airport security treated me like a terrorist. The reason they finally let me go will restore your faith in justice. My name is George, retired Delta Force operator. What I'm about to tell you happened 6 months ago at Denver International Airport. It's a story about power, prejudice, and what happens when ordinary people forget that heroes walk among us every day. Because sometimes the most dangerous-looking person in the room is actually the one keeping everyone else safe. It started with a simple mistake. I was flying back from my daughter's wedding in Colorado, heading home to Virginia. Sarah had looked beautiful in her white dress, walking toward a future I'd never be able to protect the same way I'd protected strangers in foreign countries. Except I forgot about the item in my carry-on bag, the one item I never travel without. "Sir, step aside, please." The TSA agent's voice was sharp, authoritative. He was young, maybe 25, with the kind of attitude that comes from having a little bit of power and no idea how to use it properly. His name tag read Johnson. Behind him stood his supervisor, a woman in her 40s with arms crossed and a look that said she'd already decided I was guilty of something. "Is there a problem?" I asked, keeping my voice calm and level. "We need to search your bag, sir. Please stand over there and keep your hands visible." I moved to where he pointed, watching as they emptied my belongings onto the metal table. Clothes, toiletries, a book about military history, and then, at the bottom of the bag, they found it. A small wooden box, hand-carved, about the size of a deck of cards. The wood was weathered walnut, darkened by years of handling. The young agent opened it carefully, as if expecting it to explode. Inside, nestled in red velvet that had faded to burgundy, was a single spent shell casing, brass, from a .308 rifle. Nothing dangerous about it, just a piece of metal with sentimental value beyond anything these people could understand. But I could see the fear in his eyes the moment he saw it. "Sir, you're going to need to come with us." "It's just an empty shell casing," I explained. "A memento from—" "Sir, do not speak. Place your hands behind your back." That's when everything went sideways. They led me to a small, windowless room deep in the bowels of the airport. Cinderblock walls painted institutional beige, fluorescent lighting that buzzed like angry insects. 2 chairs and a metal table, the kind of room where they take people who aren't expected to leave anytime soon. "Empty your pockets," the supervisor ordered. Her name tag read Martinez. Everything on the table. I complied. Wallet, phone, keys, a small leather notebook where I keep important phone numbers. Martinez picked up the shell casing, turning it over in her hands like it was evidence of a crime. "Where did you get this?" "It's from Afghanistan. A memento from my military service." "What kind of memento requires ammunition?" I could have explained it then. Could have told her about the mission where that bullet saved 12 lives. About the village elder who gave it to me as a gift after I'd held off Taliban fighters for 4 hours. About what it meant to carry a piece of that place with me. Instead, I said simply, "It's not ammunition. It's an empty shell." She wasn't interested in explanations. "We're going to need to verify your identity and run a full background check. This could take several hours." "Several hours? I have a flight to catch." "Not anymore, you don't." And that's how I ended up spending the next 3 hours in a room that felt more like a prison cell than an airport security office. Do you know what it feels like to be treated like a criminal when you've spent 23 years of your life protecting the very freedom that allows people to treat you that way? It's humiliating, degrading, and it makes you question whether the sacrifices were worth it. The questioning started an hour later. A different agent this time. Older, more experienced, but just as suspicious. "Tell me about your military service, Mr. Miller." "I served in the Army, multiple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq." "What was your job?" "Infantry, special operations." "Special operations." He said it like it was a dirty word. "What kind of special operations?" I could have told him. Could have explained about the classified missions, the high-value targets, the operations that would never appear in any official record. But those stories weren't mine to tell. They belonged to the men who didn't make it home. The classified kind? That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to get. He didn't like that. Nobody likes being told they don't have the clearance to know something. Let me make something clear, Mr. Miller. You're in possession of what could be considered weapons-related materials. You're being evasive about your background, and you're showing signs of antisocial behavior consistent with someone who might pose a threat to aviation security. Antisocial behavior. Because I wouldn't violate operational security to satisfy his curiosity. Am I under arrest? You're being detained pending further investigation. On what grounds? Suspicion of intent to commit acts of terrorism. The words hit me like a physical blow. Terrorism. 23 years of service to my country, and I was being accused of terrorism because I carried a memento from the war. Hours passed. They brought me water in a plastic cup and a stale sandwich. Asked the same questions over and over, as if repetition would somehow change my answers. I sat in that room, watching the clock on the wall tick away the minutes, and I thought about the missions I'd run, the lives I'd saved, the sacrifices I'd made, and I wondered if this was how it all ended. Not with honor, not with recognition, but with suspicion and fear from the very people I'd sworn to protect. That's when the door opened and everything changed. A man in a dark suit stepped into the room, tall, authoritative, with the kind of presence that immediately commanded attention. Behind him stood another man in an Air Force uniform with stars on his shoulders. A general. "Mr. Miller," the man in the suit said, extending his hand. "My name is Agent Thompson, FBI. This is General Harrison, Air Force Special Operations Command." I stood up, suddenly aware that something significant was happening. "Gentlemen?" General Harrison stepped forward, and what he did next shocked everyone in that room. He saluted me. Not a casual salute, not a perfunctory gesture. A sharp, precise, respectful salute from a two-star general to a civilian in airport detention. "Sergeant Major Miller," he said formally. "It's an honor to meet you, sir." The change in the room was immediate and electric. Martinez, who had been standing by the door with her arms crossed, suddenly straightened up. The interrogating agent's mouth fell open. "General," I replied, returning the salute. "I'm retired, sir. Just George now." "Not to me, you're not." He turned to address Martinez and the other agents. "Do you people have any idea who you've been holding in this room?" Silence. "This man is Sergeant Major George Miller, retired. 23 years of service with the 75th Ranger Regiment and 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta. 3 Silver Stars, 2 Bronze Stars with V device, and a Distinguished Service Cross for actions in Afghanistan that are still classified to this day." He gestured to the shell casing sitting on the table. "That piece of brass you've been treating like evidence of terrorism? It's from a mission where Sergeant Major Miller single-handedly held off an entire Taliban company for 4 hours, while calling in close air support to save a village of 300 civilians." The room was dead silent now. The village elder gave him that shell casing as a gift. It's not just a memento. It's a symbol of gratitude from people whose lives he saved. And you've spent the last 3 hours treating him like a common criminal. Agent Thompson spoke up. "General, we had no way of knowing." "You had every way of knowing," the general cut him off. "A simple phone call to verify his service record would have taken 5 minutes. Instead, you chose to assume the worst about a decorated war hero." He turned back to me. "Sergeant Major, on behalf of the United States Air Force and the Department of Defense, I apologize for the treatment you've received here today. It's unconscionable and unacceptable." "Thank you, sir, but it's not necessary. These people are just doing their jobs." "No," he said firmly. Their job is to keep travelers safe, not to humiliate American heroes based on ignorance and prejudice. That's when Martinez finally found her voice. Sir, we had no idea. His documentation didn't show any military service. Because it's classified, Agent Thompson explained. Men like Sergeant Major Miller operated in units that officially don't exist. Their service records are sealed at the highest levels of government. How did you know to come here? I asked. Thompson smiled. Your daughter called the Pentagon when you didn't answer your phone. She was worried something had happened to you. It took us about 30 seconds to track you down through airport security logs. My daughter, the one who had just gotten married, who knew her father well enough to know that missing a phone call wasn't normal for me. She also mentioned that you never travel without that shell casing, General Harrison added. Said it was your way of keeping your fallen brothers with you, that you'd carried it through 13 different countries over the years. He was right. That piece of brass represented more than just a mission. It represented Staff Sergeant Martinez from Detroit, who took shrapnel to save a medic. Corporal Williams from Texas, who called for his mother as he died. Lieutenant Patterson from Maine, who threw himself on a grenade to protect his squad. Sergeant Major, the general continued, your flight departed 2 hours ago, but I've arranged for a military transport to take you home, with full honors. That's not necessary, sir. It's not about necessary. It's about what's right. As we prepared to leave that room, Martinez approached me. Her earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like shame. Mr. Miller, I want to apologize. What we did to you today was wrong. I hope you can forgive us. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman who had spent 3 hours treating me like a criminal, who had made assumptions based on fear rather than facts. Ma'am, you were protecting people. That's never wrong. Just remember that the people you're protecting include the ones who don't look like what you expect heroes to look like. The aftermath was swift and decisive. TSA implemented new procedures for handling military veterans and their personal items. Mandatory training on recognizing and respecting military service. And a direct hotline to the Pentagon for verifying the credentials of anyone claiming military service. 6 months later, I received a letter from Martinez. She had enrolled in a program to work with veteran organizations, helping former service members navigate the challenges of civilian life. She wrote, "You taught me that day that respect isn't something you earn based on how you look or how much power you have. It's something you give because it's the right thing to do. Thank you for showing me what grace looks like, even when you had every right to be angry. That shell casing still sits on my dresser at home, next to a photograph of the men who didn't make it back from that village in Afghanistan, next to my daughter's wedding photo, next to the bronze star they gave me for that mission, the one I never wear, because heroes shouldn't need metal on their chest to prove their worth. But now it means something more. It's not just a reminder of the price of freedom. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, even when we're misunderstood and misjudged, we have the power to choose how we respond. Do you know what I learned in that airport detention room? Dignity isn't something other people can take away from you. It's something you carry inside yourself, regardless of how others treat you. The young TSA agent who started this whole ordeal never apologized, but that's okay. His actions that day led to changes that will protect other veterans from going through what I experienced. Sometimes the most important victories are the ones that prevent someone else from having to fight the same battle. My father always taught me that you judge a man not by how he acts when he's in power, but by how he acts when he has none. That day in the airport, I had no power, no authority, no way to prove who I was or what I had done. But I had something more valuable than power. I had the knowledge that my service mattered, that the sacrifices were worth it, that even being humiliated by the system I had served was a small price to pay for living in a country where such mistakes can be corrected. The shell casing from Afghanistan taught me that every shot fired in defense of freedom matters. The 3 hours in airport detention taught me that every act of grace in the face of injustice matters too. Both lessons are equally important. Both are equally hard-won. And both remind me why I served and why I'd do it all again if called upon. Because freedom isn't free. And sometimes the price isn't paid on the battlefield. Sometimes it's paid in airport security rooms by people who choose dignity over anger, understanding over resentment. Sometimes the greatest service is simply showing others what a soldier looks like when he's not wearing his uniform.